On their 5th wedding anniversary, Ashley stepped off the bus carrying heavy gift bags. Her father looked outside in shock. "Why did you take the bus? Where's the car I gave you?" Ashley whispered with tears in her eyes. Mike sold it to pay for his mother's vacation. Her father's face turned pale, but her mother's next words saved the situation in an unexpected way. Mike didn't just sell the car, he also lied that Ashley's father had agreed to it. But the truth behind it was even more horrifying. When Ashley decided to confront her husband, she never expected that one phone call would expose all the lies, and her family's next move would make Mike pay a devastating price. Before we continue, let me know what country you're from and your age in the comment. Ashley received a text from her mom. "Sweetheart, we're expecting you and Mike Saturday night. 5 years is a big milestone. Let's celebrate properly." Ashley smiled at her phone. 5 years. It felt like just yesterday they were standing under a flower arch, full of hopes and dreams. She quickly replied, "Thanks, Mom, we'll be there." But a seed of doubt had already sprouted within her. Mike had become distant lately, always busy. Evenings were spent glued to his computer, claiming urgent work, and weekends were filled with unavoidable plans with friends. When Ashley told Mike about the invitation over dinner, he barely looked up from his plate. "Saturday? I don't know, Ash. I think I have a meeting with partners. Very important." Ashley felt a lump forming in her throat. Again? Was work more important than their anniversary? She tried to keep the irritation out of her voice. "Mike, it's our anniversary. 5 years. Mom and Dad are expecting us." Mike finally looked up, his expression weary. "Ashley, you know I can't just drop everything. It's work, it's money. It benefits you too if I succeed." "It would benefit me more if you were here with me sometimes," Ashley wanted to say, but she held back. Arguing was pointless. Mike was a master of persuasion, shifting blame, and playing the victim. She was tired of these endless, fruitless conversations. "Fine," Ashley said quietly. "I'll go alone then." Mike shrugged. "Suit yourself. Give my regards to your parents." And he went back to his food. Ashley got up from the table, feeling an emptiness growing inside her. She went to the bedroom, sat on the bed, watched the darkening sky, and thought about how her life with Mike was increasingly becoming a charade. A seemingly happy family on the outside, but cold and distant on the inside. On Saturday morning, Ashley woke up with a heavy heart. She spent ages trying to decide what to wear. She wanted to look good, so her parents wouldn't notice her low spirits. Finally, she settled on a simple but elegant pastel dress. She had bought the gifts in advance, an expensive history book for her father and a set of exquisite tea for her mother. Mike, of course, hadn't offered to help with the selections. She did everything herself, as usual. When it was time to leave, Ashley went out with 2 large bags. She took the bus. A cab would have been faster and more comfortable, but she decided to save money. After Mike sold the car, every penny counted. The car? The thought still filled her with anger and helplessness. How could he do that? Sell the car her parents gave them as a wedding gift without her knowledge, and then claim the money went towards his mother's vacation. He even said her father, George, had approved the idea. Nonsense. She knew her father would never allow such a thing. Ashley sat on the bus and placed the gift bags on the floor. She remembered how convenient it was to drive her own car. Her behind the wheel, music playing, freedom. Now it was a cramped bus, jostling crowds, and unpleasant odors. All the way, Ashley looked out the window, trying to push away the troubling thoughts. She knew her parents would definitely ask about the car, and she would have to tell them everything. She didn't want to upset them. They worried about her enough, as it was. Her mother, Susan, had always said Mike wasn't right for her, too self-assured, too money-loving. But Ashley was in love then and wouldn't listen to anyone. She thought Mike was her destiny, her Prince Charming. How wrong she was. The bus pulled up to the stop near her parents' house. Ashley got off, struggling to carry the bags to the building. She took the elevator to the 7th floor and rang the bell. Susan opened the door. She looked, as always, impeccable, neat hairstyle, light makeup, elegant dress. "Ashley, honey, I'm so glad to see you, she exclaimed and hugged her daughter tightly. I'm glad too, Mom, Ashley replied, trying to smile. Susan took one of the bags from her.
Come on in.
Dad's already setting the table. Where's Mike? Ashley hesitated. He has work, Mom. He couldn't make it. A shadow of disappointment flickered in her mother's eyes, but she said nothing. She led her daughter to the living room, where George was arranging plates. The festive table was set with an atmosphere of strained anticipation. Ashley placed the gifts on the table, trying to hide her nervousness. The potato salad, an essential part of any family celebration, tasted particularly bland to her that day. Susan bustled around, as always, offering guests appetizers and drinks, but even her usual fuss couldn't dispel the tension in the air. George, on the other hand, was quiet and thoughtful. His gaze kept returning to Ashley, as if he were trying to read the answers to unasked questions on her face. Finally, George broke the silence. He cleared his throat and, looking directly at Ashley, asked, Ashley, where's the car? I didn't see it outside. Did you take the bus? Ashley felt the blood rush to her face. She looked down at her hands, fiddling with the tablecloth. She didn't want to talk about it, especially now on their anniversary. But there was no point in delaying the truth. Dad, Mike sold it, she said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. George frowned. Sold it?
How?
To whom? And why? Ashley took a deep breath. He said he needed the money to pay for Mike's mother, Patricia, for a vacation. Susan gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. How could he sell it without your knowledge? It was a gift, Ashley. Our car to you. Ashley shrugged. He said you approved of it, Dad. Said you two had talked about it. A heavy silence filled the room. George turned purple. He slowly put his fork down on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silence. I approved, he growled.
Me?
Mike didn't even breathe a word of it to me. I would never have allowed it. It was your gift, Ashley. Susan tried to ease the tension. George, why are you so quick to jump to conclusions? Maybe he just didn't put it that way? Maybe Ashley misunderstood something? No, Mom. I understood everything, Ashley countered. That's exactly what he said. That you, Dad, were in the loop and didn't mind. George was silent, his gaze fixed on the table. He was visibly controlling his anger. He had always been quick-tempered but fair. Lies and betrayal were unacceptable to him. The silence was crushing Ashley. She wanted to sink into the floor. She felt guilty, as if she had done something wrong. Although, in essence, she was a victim of deceit. Suddenly, the phone rang. Ashley jumped. Mike's name flashed on the screen. She looked hesitantly at her parents. Answer it, George said dryly. Let's see what he has to say. Ashley swallowed and answered the call. Hi, Mike, Mike said cheerfully. How are you all doing? Having fun? Is the cake good? Ashley felt herself starting to shake with anger. He was calling as if nothing had happened, as if nothing were wrong. Everything's fine, she replied, trying to maintain her composure. We're sitting, having dinner. Oh, sorry, honey, I'm a little late. Don't bother, Ashley interrupted. Don't come.
What?
Are you okay? What happened? Ashley abruptly hung up and turned off her phone. Again, a tense silence filled the room. Susan went to her daughter and hugged her. My poor girl, she whispered. How have you been putting up with this? Ashley pulled away from her mother and looked her in the eye. I won't put up with it anymore, Mom. Enough is enough. Ashley nodded silently. She felt a new strength awakening within her, a strength that would help her cope with everything that lay ahead. She was no longer the naive and timid girl who had married Mike 5 years ago. Life had taught her a lot, and now she was ready to make her choice, a choice for herself, for her freedom and independence. The evening, which had begun as a celebration of their wedding anniversary, turned into a moment of truth. A moment when Mike's lies and manipulations were exposed, and Ashley's family support became her pillar and hope for a new life. Susan slowly rose from the table. There was a certain solemnity in her movements, uncharacteristic of an ordinary family dinner. Ashley watched her mother anxiously, not understanding what was happening. The tension in the room reached its peak. Even the ticking of the clock on the wall seemed deafening. Susan returned with a large folder in her hands. She placed it on the table, right in front of Ashley. The folder was tied with a satin ribbon, the color of which Ashley couldn't immediately make out in the dim light of the chandelier. Ashley, Susan began, her voice trembling, but there was a firm resolve in it. Your father and I have been thinking for a long time. We've seen how you suffer, how this Mike. She faltered, as if her son-in-law's name caused her physical pain. How he doesn't appreciate you. George nodded silently, confirming his wife's words. He sat with his fists clenched, looking at Ashley with such love and sympathy that her eyes stung. We can't watch this anymore, Susan continued, untying the ribbon on the folder. We want you to be happy, to decide for yourself how you want to live. She opened the folder and took out several sheets of paper. Ashley recognized the familiar form, a sales contract. But she couldn't understand exactly what the subject of the contract was. These are the documents for an apartment, Susan said, handing the papers to Ashley. Your father and I have transferred it to you. Ashley stared at her mother in astonishment. An apartment? What apartment? She didn't understand anything. It's a small apartment, Susan explained. In a new building, not far from your old high school. No one has lived there yet. We wanted to surprise you for your birthday, but... She broke off, glancing at George. But after today's conversation, we decided we couldn't wait any longer. Ashley took the documents with trembling hands. She scanned the lines, trying to understand the meaning of what was written. The apartment was indeed registered in her name completely, without any conditions or reservations. Mom, Dad, Ashley whispered, feeling a lump rising in her throat. But why? Why? Susan repeated, her eyes filled with tears. So that you can be free, so that you can leave him at any moment, so that you know you have your own place, where you will always be welcomed and loved. George went to Ashley and put his arm around her shoulders. Honey, we will always be there for you. No matter what happens, we won't let anyone hurt you. Ashley buried her face in her father's shoulder, holding back sobs. She felt like a little girl being protected from all harm. But at the same time, she realized that she was not alone. She had her parents' support, and she had her own home. Thank you, Ashley whispered. Thank you so much. Susan wiped away her tears and sat back down at the table. She looked at George as if asking for permission. He nodded. Ashley, Susan began, now listen to what your father has to say. George cleared his throat and looked at Ashley with a serious expression. There was no trace of the softness and sympathy in his eyes that he had just shown. Now he was a stern and determined man, ready to protect his daughter at any cost. The car, George said. That car I gave you as a wedding gift. It's still registered in my name. Ashley looked at her father in surprise.
She didn't know that.
Mike had always said the car was in his name. I never transferred it to Mike, George explained. But that doesn't matter now. He paused and looked at Ashley. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to the police and reporting the car as stolen. Ashley gasped. Dad, why? So that Mike can answer for his actions. George cut in. He lied to you. He lied to us. He sold the car without any right to do so. He must be punished. But this could be serious, Ashley stammered. I know, George replied. But he chose this path himself. He should have thought about it before doing such things. Susan took Ashley's hand. Honey, don't worry. Your father and I will take care of everything. The main thing is for you to know that we are on your side. We won't let him manipulate you. Ashley looked at her parents. In their eyes, she saw not only love and support, but also firm resolve. They were ready to fight for her. And she finally felt that she had the strength to fight for herself. The silence in the room became heavy again. But now it was not a silence of tension and anxiety, but a silence of reflection and hope. Ashley felt a new strength being born within her, a strength that would help her overcome all difficulties and find happiness. George got up from the table. I think I'll have a shot of cognac, he said, to calm my nerves. I suggest you do the same. Susan nodded and took a bottle of cognac and 3 glasses out of the cabinet. She filled them to the brim and handed one to Ashley. "Drink, honey, you need it now." Ashley took the glass and slowly took a sip. The burning liquid seared her throat, but at the same time brought some relief. They sat in silence, sipping cognac and looking at each other. In their eyes, one could read love, support, and hope for a better future. That evening, Ashley realized that family was the most important thing she had, and that she would never be alone as long as she had such parents. She also realized that it was time to change her life, and she was ready for it. Ashley returned home by taxi. The apartment greeted her with the usual half-darkness and the smell of cheap tobacco that Mike loved so much. She went into the living room, trying not to make noise. Mike was sitting on the couch, staring at the television, where shots of some football match flickered silently. He didn't even turn around when she came in. "I'm home," Ashley said quietly, taking off her coat. "I see," Mike grunted, not taking his eyes off the screen. "How was the dinner?" Ashley sighed. She wanted to just lie down and forget about everything, but she knew that this conversation was inevitable. She sat in the chair opposite Mike, trying to remain calm. "It was good," she replied, looking him straight in the eye. "We discussed a lot." Mike finally tore himself away from the television and looked at her with a slight irritation. "And what did you discuss?" "My brilliance." Ashley ignored his sarcasm. "We discussed the car," she said in an even voice, "and the money you got for it." Mike's face changed slightly. He tried to maintain a casual expression, but a flicker of anxiety flashed in his eyes. "Oh, that. Well, I told you that Mom needed a vacation. You know how she's been dreaming of the sea." "You said Dad approved it," Ashley reminded him. "But that's not true." He didn't know anything about it. He filed a police report about the car theft. Mike frowned. "So what? What difference does it make?" "The main thing is that everyone is happy. Mom had a good rest. I solved the financial problem." "What about me?" Ashley asked, and for the first time, bitterness crept into her voice. "What about my feelings? Don't you even care about what I think, what I feel?" Mike shrugged. "Oh, don't start again. You know I'm busy, I have work. I don't have time to deal with your sentiments." Ashley felt a wave of anger rising inside her, but she held back. She didn't want to scream, cry, or beg anymore. She just wanted him to leave. "Mom gave me an apartment," she said calmly. Mike raised his eyebrows in surprise. "What apartment?" "Out of the blue." "She said she was tired of seeing me suffer," Ashley replied. "She wants me to be happy. And you think happiness isn't an apartment?" Mike sneered. "You'll be lost without me. Who will support you? Who will solve your problems?" Ashley looked at him with pity. "I will solve my own problems," she said, "and support myself too." "And your father?" Mike continued to press. "He filed a police report about the car theft. Do you realize that I could go to jail?" Ashley sighed. "You should have thought about that earlier," she replied, "before deceiving me and my parents." Mike jumped up from the couch and began pacing the room, gesticulating wildly. "You betrayed me," he shouted. "Did you conspire with them? You've always been a mama's girl." Ashley was silent. She looked at him as if he were a stranger. She no longer saw in him the Mike she had once loved. She saw only a liar and a manipulator who was trying to break her. "Leave," she said quietly. Mike froze in the middle of the room, as if stunned. "What?" he asked. "Leave," Ashley repeated. "I don't want to see you anymore." "You can't do this," Mike shouted. "We're married. We have an anniversary." "That was our last anniversary," Ashley replied. "Leave." Mike stood for a few seconds, looking at her with hatred. Then he turned and left the apartment, slamming the door. Ashley was left alone. She sat in the chair, motionless, until the noise subsided. Then she got up and went to the window. It was already dark outside, and the windows of neighboring houses were lit with lights. She looked at the city, feeling a sense of freedom gradually growing inside her. The following week flew by in a haze. Ashley was busy with paperwork for the apartment and packing Mike's belongings. He called several times and tried to persuade her, but she was adamant. She no longer believed a word he said. The divorce was finalized quickly and without any fuss. Mike did not resist, realizing that it was all over. One morning, Ashley came out of the entrance of her new home. She walked over to a brand new car parked in the parking lot. It was a small but very beautiful car that she had chosen herself. She got behind the wheel, put the key in the ignition, and started the engine. Her heart beat faster. She turned on the music and pulled out onto the road. Ashley drove through the city, enjoying her freedom and independence. She felt strong and confident. She was driving towards a new life. She knew that a new life awaited her, full of opportunities and adventures.